The UN General Assembly has voted in favor on a resolution calling for an International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica.
Now, Bosnian Serbs, led by President Dodik of Republika Srpska and Serbian President Vučić, had been campaigning against it, claiming it demonizes all Serbs. Now, with us to discuss the matter and its impact is Ivana Stradner, Research Fellow, Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Good to have you back on TVP World.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, Ivana, this is breaking news. Just recently today, we have this vote in the UN General Assembly. By the way, that draft was actually pushed forward by Germany and Rwanda, which is important. I wanted to mention that. But the vote has passed, 84 for this commemorating day, 19 against, but 68 nations abstaining from that. So, also, I think, as we said, there are 20 countries that didn't even show up for the vote. So, but the 68 abstentions, that's concerning. What kind of impact does that have for this region and beyond?
So to begin with, basically today the United Nations General Assembly declared July 11 as an International Day of Remembrance of the Srebrenica genocide. And I have to tell you, surprised to see the votes, even though that the resolution passed, we still have like 68 abstentions from the vote. But that tells you all you need to know how actually Serbia and Russia in particular have used their power to make sure, that certain countries do not support this resolution. But nevertheless, this is still the win, and Russia and China, along with Serbia, did not manage to stop this convention, this resolution. As a matter of fact, they've been working very, very hard for the past few weeks to make sure that the resolution does not move forward. They use many political tools, many diplomatic tools, but also threats. As a matter of fact, the president, the Serbian leader, Milorad Dodik, as you just mentioned, he actually also threatened with a secession and said that the country will actually be on the brink of a war if this happened. Also, President Vučić used his political power to continue with his destabilizing threats in the region. You had, for example, numerous people in Montenegro who did not want to support this resolution. Just earlier this morning, you also had in Srebrenica, literally special operation, basically special forces, police forces from Republika Srpska. And yesterday, Milorad Dodik, he finally, stated openly that as of today, he's going to put forward the idea that the country should, in a peaceful way, separate and go like in a different directions, right. Meaning that Republika Srpska should secede.
Now, that genocide happened in 1995, so you can't hide facts. You can just go online and you can, just search for footages, right, of generals meeting together. You can actually see pictures of people being shot by the army. So we just can't hide facts. They're documentaries. We can see them. However, the resolution itself does not accuse Republika Srpska, Serbia, or Serbs of being responsible for that genocide. They're pointing, they're naming names of individuals who are responsible for that genocide. And despite that, President Vučić, he started this whole campaign, and he actually went to New York and he said, "I am going to New York to fight with all my strength and heart for the future of our country." So it seems that they're denying that this is, they don't want to call this genocide. But however, a court also ruled on that. Then it's set. It was set.
Twice, actually, yeah.
Exactly. So there's proof this is a genocide. Over 8,000 men, and there are also witnesses to speak to that truth. Where's this denialism coming from, do you think?
You're absolutely right. There is a pure denial of genocide. As a matter of fact, Milorad Dodik, he openly basically denied genocide, that even, took part in the country, and said there was no genocide in Srebrenica. So this denial comes from the fact, that you still do not have a reconciliation and peaceful processes basically in the Balkans. What your colleague earlier just showed through the maps, that there are still two steering pots in the region, which is Kosovo and in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Republika Srpska. And both President Vučić, but also Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik, have used such rhetorics to strengthen, their power within, their countries by appeasing and proving, that nationalistic rhetorics. So it's very concerning, I have to tell you, especially given that U.S. intelligence months ago issued a report and claimed that it is very likely that in 2024 we might actually see new escalations related to ethnic tensions. So Bosnia and Herzegovina in particular, which has as your colleague explained, on one side Serbs but also Croats and Bosniaks, is very, very ethnically tense right now. And with this particular resolution, Mr. Dodik is trying to actually bring even more polarization in the country, instead of using this opportunity to unify the country and to do something was good. Like, on the other hand, President Vučić, he has been using, his balancing strategy between East and West. So today in particular, he actually showed, his also real face that is very much nationalistic and genocide denial. As a matter of fact, he was sitting, there covered like in the Serbian flag. You can see that on his Instagram page, which is a typical, message for his domestic audience, targeting specifically nationalistic groups. But nevertheless, in that respect, it's a very, very tragic, really, to see that both countries and both leaders have not moved away from the 90s rhetorics. As a matter of fact, I'm very concerned that rhetorics is coming back. And whoever believes that both President Vučić and Milorad Dodik plan to bring their countries closer to the European Union, the West, is sorely mistaken.
Well, on that note, Ivana, I want to ask you, because, and just to confirm also what Anya has already said, we've had two of these proven and unified decisions in 2004 with the ICTY located in The Hague, that court, and then it was again in 2007 under the International Court of Justice. Once again, this ruling was upheld. So this is not the ICC, this is the International Court of Justice. Now, as you mentioned on that European, and this is my question now, if we have, and the trajectory seemed to be that Vučić, and that Serbia at least, was on that trajectory to a closer connection, potentially also European Union membership. Now, part of that process included at least some kind of reconciliation and agreement that, these crimes happened. Now, again, we're just the simple fact that this, on a highest level, we have the crimes, we have the rulings, we have the evidence, and we have the witnesses. If the president of Serbia says this and goes ahead and campaigns physically against it, what does that really say? Does that now, what kind of reaction should that elicit from the European Union? Because I think this needs some kind of reaction, and I think, what does that mean for Serbia's path, maybe further away from Europe rather than towards it?
So President Vučić has been trying to balance between East and West, and as I just mentioned, just recently had a visit coming from Xi Jinping, who came to Serbia and who brought numerous new agreements and, traditional ties with Russia. But President Vučić has been also trying to appease the European Union, the rest of the West. We're trying, to delay the European Union path, but nevertheless to be on that path. And I do believe, that this rhetorics today and for the past few weeks should sound alarm bell in the West to understand that this is not a pure just rhetorics. This is also something that President Vučić has been trying to push, which is the creation of the Serbian world, which is equivalent to the Russian world. I just truly hope that Western leaders this time around, they are not going to say, don't worry, this is just for domestic purposes, rhetorics. So he has to do that because I do not believe that this is only for domestic purposes. As a matter of fact, the government of Russia also has been very, very active in this whole thing. They said that this is unacceptable resolution. They were very much, denying. You have Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations who openly, stated that United Nations resolution
But Ivana, I would like to, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because we have 1 minute left and I want to squeeze in one last question because we're talking about, I want to go back to 1995. At that moment, there were 400 UN soldiers stationing just 5 kilometers of Srebrenica. And there were these safe zones, so to say. And at that time, at the time of genocide, they were there. And it seems, as you're reading and watching, they kind of gave up on that region and these people. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what happened there? And we also know that they were asking for more support from the UN, and they did not get, well, I don't want to say any, because they did destroy 2 tanks from there, but they did not get as much as they needed. What
You're
happened?
absolutely right. Look, looking back and reading all those documents that are now available, what happened back in the 90s, it's truly devastating that the West was not active on time. They had an opportunity, to stop this, and yet, they didn't. And remember, back then, we lived in a basically unipolar world. So there was no excuse, the threat of China or the threat of Russia. It's truly devastating to see, that the West does not stop this massacre and this genocide. So what worries me today, given what your colleague said earlier today, there are 2 steering pots in Republika Srpska and Kosovo. Now, with Russia and China, imagine now how the West might actually respond, especially given the latest secessionist threats coming from Republika Srpska. We should never, ever allow 1995 to happen again. And I truly hope this time around, that the West is going to wake up to the threat and do something about that before things escalate in the region.
Yeah, and also as we close, I think one thing as well, we tie it also to some troublemakers. We had Mr. Orban in the Republika Srpska not so long ago receiving a medal from Dodik. Dodik was in Russia getting a medal from Putin, so that sort of line is always going to be there, unfortunately. So we'll have to leave that for another time. Ivana Stradner, they're always a pleasure. Thanks so much for all that.
Thank you very much for inviting me.